back to the channel. My name's Bill. I'm the Fox Body Phantom, and we're over here at American Car Day at Larz Anderson, the country's oldest car museum. We're gonna go through and shoot everything we can today. I was supposed to go up to Chelmsford to the Mustang Car Club of New England show. Weather is questionable. You can see the clouds overhead. We don't know if we're gonna get some showers. This show is like 20 minutes from the house. I've been here the last 2 years, so I figured I would come and shoot this today. There is some cool stuff here, and we'll come back at the end and we'll let you know all the cool stuff. This 1971 Buick GSX convertible tribute. Buick made roughly 1,000 GSXs between 70 and 72. First year was Apollo white, Saturn yellow only. They did expand the colors after the first year into gold and black. This is a really nice tribute. I got a chance to talk to the owner. He's had about 5 years. A couple of things on this car. I've talked a lot about the Buick GSXs over the years, but I want to hit on a few things on here. One is that motor, the GS 455. This was the most torquey motor that ever came out of GM in the 70s, over 500 foot-pounds. This car was incredibly quick. You know, Buick was trying to create a high-performance exercise, kind of like what would happen with the Grand Nationals and the GS a few years later. You know, Buick was always kind of thought of as like the old man's car of the division, that, you know, that one level below Cadillac, a little more luxurious, but they had some great high performance motors. And this is before, but all of the GM motors kind of fell into one umbrella, right? You didn't have a separate Oldsmobile, Pontiac, Buick, Chevy motor. Everything became one. This is where everything was still separate. The GSX is an absolutely stunning car. I love the lines on it. You know, this whole series of, you know, intermediate sized cars with the Chevelle, the Cutlass, you know, the Le Mans / GTO, the Buick, you know, the Skylark GS series were some of the best looking, best selling cars of all time. This car shines in a few areas. I love the paint. I love the hood tack, which always looks so cool. The interior is beautiful. Again, being a Buick, a little more upmarket. The individual gauges, the wood grain on the inside, the really nice vinyl high bucket seats, the convertible boot, like everything just looks great on this car, and everything flows through very seamlessly. And I do like the design on the Buicks. You know, I think when I was younger, I was probably more of a Cutlass or a Chevelle guy. I think now as I've gotten older, I've kind of like all of them pretty equally. I don't think there's one that really stands apart, but if I had, you know, my druthers and I could take any of them other than like an LS6 Chevelle, I'd probably go with a 70 Apollo white GSX. I just think it's an absolutely gorgeous car, and this is a great example of this one. You're good.
Hi, Paul Dutton. I have a 1964 Studebaker Marshall. It's technically a Pursuit Marshall. 20 to 25 of these were built in South Bend. South Bend is where Studebakers were made since the early 1900s. And this was the last year they came out of the production out of South Bend. Studebaker continued 2 more years out of Hamilton. This car has a 289, a Bonnie powered R1, so it's got a lot of good pick-me-up and power. Borg Warner transmission. Gets a lot of looks. The siren, the lights, they all work. And I love scaring people, so I've given a few heart attacks to people. And I literally, one person jumped and turned around and like, "You got me," and I'm like, "I'm sorry." But it's a lot of fun. I have 3 Studebakers, and this is probably the most rare one. And I have a 60 Lark and a 66 Daytona. But that's it.
Like an old original hot rod. It looks like a 31, but I love this setup on it. Like, this is what it would have looked like in the 50s when someone was building a hot rod. I think it's so cool. You know, the skinnies up front with the white walls, the bigger skinnies, there are taller skinnies in the back with the black wall. It looks incredible. The flat black hot rod paint, which you would have had back then. You know, there wasn't a ton of money back to build the hot rods. I love period correct styling on these, and this one just looks so cool. You know, these are super fun. I think about when you get to the newer versions of the hot rods, and it puts the giant slicks on them, which is very cool as well. But to see this version, again, with the Mercury setup with the Mercury motor, it's just a neat car. And again, it's great in this style. Again, this is what they used to know. Back in the day, they talk about like day 2 or period correct. This is like a 50s period correct hot rod that someone would have built from that era. And it looks awesome. It's just a great version of this car.
So my name's Andrew, and this is my 2016 Camaro 2SS. I got the car because I graduated college and really wanted it, and couldn't afford one. So I bought it wrecked from Copart. It was wrecked all in the front here, so it needed, you know, radiator, it needed the bumper, fenders, hood. So I did all the work myself with my dad, all the way through to the paint, and that was 5 years ago. So I've been enjoying it since, daily drive it in the summer. It's just been a really great car, so if you guys like it.
Awesome. So guys, this is Andrew's car. He just kind of told us a little bit about it. Andrew shared the story on this and he was being very humble. This is super cool. Graduated from college, wanted this car. It was his dream car, found a wrecked one from Copart. Him and his dad did all the work. I love a story like that. Again, somebody that's inspired to find something that's like their dream, putting the work and effort into it, added the ZL1 bumper onto it, added the upgraded wheels. The car looks great. It also has 70,000 plus miles on it, so it gets driven regularly. He also has, for the winter, him and his dad share a CT6 Blackwing. So somebody that loves modern GM high performance, I'm a fan. Very cool, Andrew. Thank you for telling us you enjoy the videos, and thank you for checking out the channel. We're so happy to share your car, and I love the story of someone that goes in and does all their work themselves. Awesome. All right, I'm gonna shoot this 1926 Packard. Now, you guys know pre-war is not my wheelhouse. I'm not gonna be able to go super deep, but I think this car deserves a spot in the video for a few reasons. One is just the absolute length of this car. It is incredible. When you look at this car, it just has presence. The solid wheels, the long length. We shot that 1917 Locomobile last week, which only had the cover over the passenger. Packard in 26 would actually cover the whole car, so the driver and the passenger were covered. But make no mistake about it, this was very much a car to be driven in versus a car you would want to drive, right? The big straight 8, the huge running boards. The style on these cars is just so iconic. When you take a look back here, you see the 2 jump seats, but if you get rid of those jump seats, you have the very large rear seat. A fair amount of room for the driver. Again, these cars were designed, what was funny back then is you got to think about these cars as kind of a one size fits all. It wasn't going in and adjusting anything. You fit in the car, you didn't, right? And it's just so cool. And again, we'll just kind of go around the back of it again. Again, I won't pretend that I am the expert in any form or function in a 26 Packard, but I thought it needs to get shot because it's just beautiful. All right, guys, the next car we're going to talk about up here tonight is this beautiful 1965 Shelby replica, right? So this is a factory 5. I got a chance to talk with the owner. He did a lot of the work himself. So outside of the paint and body work, he actually went down to Factory 5 in Wareham, picked up the body, picked up the parts, got a local motor in the Framingham area, right? So all this stuff was sourced from New England, which I think is super cool. It does have a 289. The car's putting out about 355 horse. It's also a 355 rear end with a 5-speed manual transmission, and the car weighs under 2,200 pounds. So it is the very definition of a rocket ship. What I love on these cars, and they've done such a good job with Factory 5 of integrating the Shelby style into the cars. You see some of the kit cars, and the proportions never quite look right. I think Factory 5 and Super Performance have just done such a nice job of making those integrated kit cars the right way that look like what you have from Shelby back in the day. The one thing that impressed me a ton on this car too, so this, the original Shelbys had the knockoff wheels for, for racing. So you'd have that center cap, you'd have a little lead hammer, you'd bang that off, and you'd have the one nut. He got the wheels that look like the center cap knockoff, but they're actually, like a 5-lug wheel. But they did such a nice job of integrating that center cap into it. It looks incredibly seamless, and it looks like it would back in '65. The other thing too is obviously a side pipe car. We were joking just a little bit. You don't own this car or have the badge of honor of owning the car until you burn your leg on it. He did it super early on. He has not done it again since. But what I like here too is I like the AC steering wheel. It really does look very factory period correct. So just everything on this car flows right. I love the blue. My only thing, if it were mine that I would have done, I probably would have done white stripes. But again, that's just preference, but I think it looks incredible. Great job on the car. And just thank you for sharing it with us. So a couple of years ago, I talked a lot about the GT350s. I haven't seen as many recently. Obviously the GT500 came back out with monster horsepower over 700. The GT350, as you start to talk to the Shelby guys, is really considered more of the driver's car, right? The GT500 is a numbers car. Stupid performance, stupid in a straight line, crazy horsepower. But the GT350 is what kind of the guys that love to do track days, these are the cars they really enjoy for a couple of reasons, right? It's a little lighter than the GT500. You don't have all the weight over the front axle, but you also have a car that revs to like 8,250 RPM, 526 horsepower, and that flat plane crank V8 just sounds absolutely incredible. They did a really nice job integrating this body in. It's not incredibly differentiated from the Mustang that it's based on, but it's differentiated enough that it looks really sharp. And again, this is the iconic color combination, right? I think if you have a Shelby, it's either got to be white and blue or blue and white. I just think those are the colors that I think of when I think of Shelbys. And this is a great version of that car. They did really do a nice job with the interior, right? They had the really nice seats. Obviously, this was the better version of the manual transmission too. So both of them, the regular Mustang and the Shelby, had a 6-speed. This was the upgraded version of the 6-speed. The standard version actually had quite a bit of problems. People did not love that transmission. This upgraded version was something that was a much better high-performance version, shorter shifts, more precise, more durable. So if you're looking for like the ultimate version of a Mustang from almost 10 years ago now, which also is crazy to me, right? We're thinking 2017 is 8 years ago. This is a great version of this car. There was some concern over the years, you know, with that flat plane crank would, you know, we start to run into some issues with the engine blocks, start to kind of detonate on themselves. We haven't seen a lot of that in the forums. We've had a few, but it's been more reliable and more robust than I think a lot of people thought it would be long term. And again, it's just a great looking car. Again, I think this is a generation of Mustang where the prices are still somewhat reasonable. You can get a GT 350 with, you know, moderate mileage for around $50,000. I think in the next few years you're going to see these start to skyrocket, especially as they start to get a little older, and you'll start to see more high mileage cars and more really low mileage cars, and those cars in the middle that are available today with that 40 to 50,000 miles start to kind of disappear. This is a car I would look at as a potential investment. I think it's a great car. All right, so we talked about how Buick did not make a GSX convertible, but they did make a GS. And this is cool because we shot that 71 Tribute earlier. We'll shoot this 72 GS. 455, same big block motor. You can see though the body is just, you know, you don't have some of the different effects on the body, some of the different paint. You don't have the wing on the back. It's very similar body style though, not a huge difference from the GSX. The GSX would have been a little bit more upmarket, would have looked a little sportier. You can see also in the interior in the GSX, you had a little more luxury. But the same gauges. Again, now we have the white seats. This is a pretty neat, you know, white split bench, white bench in the back and the vinyl seats. Big motor, just like we talked about earlier, 500 foot-pounds of torque, tons of power. These Buicks, again, are super underrated. I think if you're looking for a very cool car, just like I said earlier, this is a great car to get after. As always, the Mopar guys always show up in mass. I love seeing their cars. I'm going to just do a quick walkthrough, but I am going to come back and talk about this Magnum because I love the Magnums. I think they're criminally underrated. But you always have a good turnout from the Dodge folks. They'll have the Hellcats. You'll have the wide-body Hellcats, a lot of cool stuff. But we do have the Magnum. Now, I talked about the Magnums earlier. This is a 2008. So when this wagon came out, I ordered one like brand new from the factory. I never actually ended up taking order from it, but I love these cars. I wish we had hung around with the Magnums long enough to get into like the Hellcat Magnums, and you know, I think it would have been so cool. I think Dodge hit a home run with this car. Obviously this and the 300 led to the Challenger and the Chargers coming back, but the body on these was so cool. When you think about what was out there at the time, it really did mimic a lot of what they were doing with the German cars. You think of Mercedes and BMW had these, they call saloon cars, which would be their wagons that had high performance version of them with AMG and the M wagons. And Dodge came back in with this Hemi, and man, this thing was a game changer at the time. We talked about the 300C and how it kind of, you know, morphed from that 300M from a front drive V6 back to a rear drive V8. And they hit lightning in a bottle with these, right? You know, and a couple of years later, you'd see the Challenger come out, then you'd see the Chargers, and those cars sold like crazy. But this is really the car that started it all. I think even more so than the 300, right? Because the 300 had the Chrysler front end. This brought back that muscular style Dodge front end, right? That was super aggressive. It looked great on the car. And again, you had Hemi power, about 375 horsepower with a rear wheel drive platform that you could haul the family in. It looks super cool. I still think this is one of the best body lines. And then you could get an SRT 8 version of it with over 425 horsepower. And you had the Alcoa wheels that came from the factory. Super cool car. Again, criminally underrated, one of my favorites up here. Okay, let's talk about this 61 Polara. We have shot his red and his blue Dodges. I don't know if we've shot this one yet. Love these cars. His car collection is incredible. He didn't put his name on, so I'm not going to use his name just because I don't know if he wants it out there. So I'm going to try to be respectful, so I'll say he. But great guy. We've done a lot of shows together. Also just super nice. Let my mom sit in one of his cars. She was super excited. These cars are so cool when you take a look at the, you know, the interior on these cars, the awesome looking speedometer, obviously the push button transmission. You know, we talk a lot about these cars and, you know, how stylistically they were so cool and so different back then. These cars are great. you know, you look at this, he always calls this like his ugly car. I think this is the one he talks about because he says, you know, the front end like only a mother could love. I disagree. I think the fins are super cool. The car is gorgeous. And by the way, if you see any of the stuff he has, all of his stuff is like top notch. Some of the best versions of early 60s Dodges out there. So happy to share this car with you. And like I said, I don't think I've shared this one before, but it's super cool. Guys, I'm gonna shoot my favorite car. I try not to do a ton of Chevelles anymore, only because I've talked a lot about it earlier in my videos, but this is my favorite car, and this is probably the version I would buy. Specifically, like I would buy this spec of this car, right? It is a 69 396 car, automatic, black with the red stripe. Car looks absolutely great. I talk about the front end on these, and I talk about them all the time. I think the best front end out of any of the muscle cars. I love the interior in these. Obviously the 396, this is the 350 horse car. You can do, you know, you could have done a bigger, more high horsepower, more like the 375 horsepower motor this year, but this motor's perfect for this car. Great looking interior with the high back buckets, the shopping basket style shifter, the actual correct SS gauges. We've seen a few SS's this week, and this one, but again, this is my favorite. Black with the red, just looks great. I love the rear end on these cars. Just everything about these cars is my favorite style. Again, eventually I will buy a 69 SS. I just haven't gotten there yet, but this is the version of what I would want, other than, you know, like a Ford GT and the Gulf livery. This, I think, is the coolest muscle car. All right, very fortunate. We have two really cool G bodies right here. We have this 85 Monty SS. This car has been completely modified. It has a more modern LS motor in it, supercharger, putting out like 550 horsepower. Owner was walking me through a couple of things that are kind of cool on it. It is an 85, so the 1 year only interior, but he's owned it since 87, did all the modifications. He's gone through a bunch of different motors. Car has over 200,000 miles on it. I think it's cool with the, you know, the flame paint on it. I really like a T-top car. Again, the 1 year only interior, which looks great on the car with the, you know, the more modern wheels on it. And then we have a Grand National, right? So we have two of the best G bodies that were out there. Obviously the Grand National, we've talked about a ton, the 3.8 V6, 275-ish horsepower. But what I love on the car is obviously the interior, and I've talked about that a ton. I'm not going to talk a ton about this because I've covered Grand Nationals way too often. But to see two really cool G bodies side by side here is awesome, and I wanted to share them both with you guys. So much fun with the videos, and I got a chance to talk to the owner of this car. Apparently I shot his IROC last year here. This is a pretty unique car, right? So this is a WS6 convertible. Now the WS6 convertibles, they didn't make a ton of, right? The WS6 was the high-end version of the Firebird and Trans Ams from these years. Think about like you'd have in the older packages. We talk about the W30, W31 packages. What they would do with these is they would be upgraded performance all the way around, right? A little more power, upgraded brakes, upgraded suspension, a little bit of a different body kit. And I love, you know, the Ram Air style on these was beautiful. When Pontiac did this for the Firehawk in like 98 or 99, and then they integrated it into like the 2001, 2002s, they just work so flawlessly. And the fact that they would build a convertible version of this with all of those adjustments for performance and for style is incredible, right? Pontiac did a great job with these. The interior was really nice. I liked the interior on the Pontiacs better than I like the interior on the Chevys. I like the seat, you know, obviously the Pontiac logo on the seat, on the headrest, which looks great. The black wheels with the WS6 center cap looks awesome on the car. Great looking wing. But I think the best part of this car always for me was that front end with that Ram Air snorkel. It just looked great on these cars, and this is an excellent version of it. So I'm happy to share this one with you guys today. All right, you're gonna give me a hard time because I'm about to geek out over another wagon, but I love this wagon. 1968 Ford Country Squire wagon with a 390, right? A big block wagon in a family sedan is incredible. And what, again, I like on this, slight modifications. We have Ford wheels from that year, but most likely we wouldn't have had, you know, these wheels on the car new. But it looks great on the car. And again, it's a family hauler, right? You have a car that was designed to take the family around, tons of space in the back, but you have the big block motor. Now, these big block motors were more torquey, especially the way they were designed for the wagons, right? This was what a torque monster versus a horsepower monster, but it had plenty of power for a car this size. You could haul a family camper, a small boat, take the kids back there, go camping. You had space for everything. And again, it was designed to be a family car. Now, obviously, this one's had the interior switched. You would not have had these sports buckets back in '68, but I like that they've left the rest of the interior pretty much intact. So you have the really simple speedometer, no tachometer, right? Again, this was a motor that wasn't going to rev to 5,500 or 6,000 RPM. It was going to, you know, be a motor that was designed to lug along, but give you a ton of torque to haul stuff around for your family. And I think it's great. And you guys know I love wagons, and I get grief for it, but I just think they're so cool. Another very cool car up here, 1969 Dodge Dart Swinger with a 340. This is a great little mid-size performance car from the muscle car era. Again, a car that was smaller than your, you know, your Chevelle, something around the same size as like a Nova. But, you know, with the Mopar, with the 340 and the 4-barrel, great performance. I think it's an automatic, so it's most likely that Torque Flight 727, which was a great motor. But if you look in, again, very basic interior, very utilitarian, super simple. But Dodge said, hey, you know, let's add in the upmarket sport wheels. Let's add in the stripe on the back that gives it some style around performance. It's just a cool looking car. And again, something that would drive incredibly well. It would give you good performance. And that 340 is a great motor with a really robust 727 transmission. All right, time to make everybody mad. Here is the fastest car at the show, and it's not even a question, and it's not even close. The Lucid Air electric car. This is, I don't think it's a Sapphire edition, but it still doesn't matter. This car is crazy horsepower, all-wheel drive, electric motor, instant torque. This thing is 0 to 60 in this version, I think in the low to mid 2s. If you go to the Sapphire in like the 1.8, 1.9, it is a monster luxury car. It is incredibly comfortable, all of the technology, but is by far the fastest car here. So I know my internal combustion engine guys are gonna get mad, and I get it. And again, we shoot a lot of classic car stuff, but understand, guys, this is by far the future of what the cars are gonna be. It's the fastest, it's probably the most comfortable. It is absolutely ludicrous. It's also very expensive. You know, these Lucid Airs are, you know, $150,000, $200,000 cars. But from a performance standpoint, nothing could touch it. It's incredible. We get to shoot something pretty unique. The Panos Esperante 2002. This car was the brainchild of Danny Panos. He wanted to build a custom, you know, sports car back then. You know, Danny's thought process was, you saw the Miatas, you saw the kind of the want for two-seat sports cars, but a lot of them were underpowered, right? You know, a lot of these cars that were coming out, the MR2s, the Miatas, that were very cool. Danny kind of went back to the thought process around like what Shelby had done in Cobra, and this is, you know, you had the Vipers, but that was a little bit more hardcore. That wasn't really like a track car to go enjoy. That was more of a straight line car. So Panos built this car working with Ford, and it used a lot of the Ford drivetrain. They had their own aluminum frame. They did a custom body on this car. This car was $90,000 new. It had a 4-valve Cobra motor, had the 5-speed manual transmission. You'll see on the inside, they actually incorporated the gauges from Ford inside to, you know, to kind of use a lot of that Ford switchgear to make it simpler for the consumer, right? You had a beautiful high-performance roadster that looked incredible, now had V8 power, but reliable V8 power. Think of what you did with the Cobra. Think about the Pantera. You can go to your local Ford dealer, get the drivetrain worked on, which is amazing for a custom-style car like this, but it looked incredible, right? The paint and the body lines were great. Like I said, had this beautiful interior, but you can see we have Ford Mustang GT handles on the inside. We have Ford Mustang GT, you know, window knobs and power lock knobs. You have the gauges, but they moved them to the center cluster. So they made it really simple to enjoy the car and take advantage of what the car could do by using Ford switchgear, but they made it so unique that someone would want to have this as a very unique special car that they could enjoy and drive like a Miata from like a performance standpoint, but with way more horsepower. I think these are incredibly cool. I've only ever seen one other one in person, so I wanted to share this with you guys because it's something that's very rare. These two cars next to us. Only I got a chance to talk to the father and son that own these two cars. So we have a 72 Cutlass in the gold and white. Talked a lot about Cutlasses recently. Again, just a really underrated car. These were everywhere. 350. These were a family car, right? They weren't thought of as a sports car back then or a muscle car. But now they're like the most approachable way to get into the classic car hobby. You can still get a Cutlass, a driver Cutlass for reasonable money. A Cutlass like this that's a driver would probably be in that, you know, mid-teens price point. So if you're looking for something in this body style, you can still get something reasonable. One of the other most reasonable cars out there are the C5 Corvette. So this is his son's car. C5 Corvette, bought it like 60,000 miles, up to like 70,000, a couple of slight modifications, added the black wheels in, but he's enjoying the heck out of it, right? So this is an awesome car, 98, so the second year of the C5. And again, I've talked about the C5s quite a bit. These cars are loved because of their drivability, right? If you're looking for a car that you can go out and get for a reasonable price, again, under $20,000, that has great performance, like 345 horsepower, Really comfortable. And oh, by the way, it'll also get you like 25 miles to the gallon on the highway. This is an awesome car. So it's cool to see, you know, when we see a father and son sharing the hobby together, I want to share the two cars. So I wanted to get over and, you know, thanks for taking a couple of minutes and slowing down and talking to me today. All right, I'm getting spoiled. Yesterday I was able to shoot a CTSV coupe. Now we get the CTSV wagon. I talked about that 390 Country Squire wagon earlier today. This is, to me, is the ultimate American wagon, right? 2012. 550 horsepower CTSV wagon. They only made the wagon for a couple of years, which is crazy because people love them now. These are like the most highly desired version of the CTSVs from these years. Everybody wants a wagon like this. This one's all blacked out, super sinister. It obviously has the upgraded Cadillac badge from 2015 and beyond, because the 2012 would have the older badge with the crest. But it looks great in this style with the luggage rack blacked out as well. This is an amazing car, all blacked out, you know, the yellow calipers, just the V badge with some color, everything else in black. Again, I'm a wagon guy, I'm a sucker for them. You can haul the family around. These things are incredible. So buy one now, right? Because these continue to go up in price. They have gotten incredibly expensive. These wagons are just crazy desirable because they only made them for a couple years. They didn't sell a ton. So everybody's looking for them. And you know, you can get a regular CTSV from this era for like $35. These wagons are going for $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 depending on the mileage, just because everybody wants the wagons from 12. Awesome to shoot. Is a 1968 Plymouth Fury. Again, we talk a lot about these cars, like, you know, this was, again, this would have been a family car. Convertible, so kind of a more of a fun family car. Tons of space, though. You're good, sir, no worries, you're fine. But this car was a 318, so it was the small V8. Plenty of power, very economical, so you could kind of go anywhere in it. But lots of room inside, super comfortable. And again, this was designed to be a family car, but maybe a little bit more of a fun family car with a convertible top. And I love the color. Again, super original. The 318, plenty of power. People are always looking to either upgrade 383. You don't really need to. You know, you're not racing this car. It's a full-size car. It was designed, again, to haul people around and their luggage. It wasn't designed to drag race. And if you take it for that and what it is and the originality of it, it's a great version of a 68 Fury. Okay, I wasn't going to shoot this full-size Bronco, but I will for just a second, only because of the license plate. The no juice license plate actually physically made me laugh the first time I saw it. I'm sure you know this if you watch my channel. This was the version of truck that was used in the low-speed chase when LAPD was trying to arrest OJ and his buddy Al Cowlings was driving it around. These cars are great, man. They were the same 5-liter drivetrain as the Mustang, same transmission, the AOD 5.0 motor, little detuned versus the Mustang. But even the gauges were pretty much identical to what you'd have in the Mustang. They just put them off to the side versus center. So it's basically the same gauge cluster, same motor, right? Super durable, super reliable. And I just, like I said, I got a kick out of that license plate when I saw it. So I figured I just had to quickly throw it in the video. Guys, out of everything up here tonight, this might be the prettiest car or truck up here today. This 1959 Chevy Apache, little 283 V8, but look at this truck. The turquoise and cream paint together, the wheels that are color matched. Man, I'm just trying to find the right words for this truck. Wait till I get to the bed too. Look at the body line on the side with the colored cove, the absolute stunning interior. You know, super simple, right? Again, you look at it, we have a basic, I don't think we have a radio, so no radio, real basic heat. You know, there's not a lot going on in here. It's just as simple and as basic as it can get. And people forget, when people were buying trucks back then, they were designed to haul stuff and work around the farm. Now, this truck to me is too pretty. Obviously, back in the day, somebody would have used it for work, but man, I would have been tough to see this get beat up back in the day just because it's so beautiful in this color combination. And I love that in the 50s they were doing these pastels that just looked incredible on these vehicles. The wooden bed, the big window in the back, like just everything about this just screams 1959. And it's so well done. It's just such a pretty vehicle. And I love the fact that as they've gone along, these utilitarian vehicles have become art over the years. They're just gonna do it for today. Thank you for checking out the video. We appreciate all of you. I am at the end of a awesome vacation week at work. You probably saw that's why there were 6 car shows this week. Absolutely incredible week. We had so much fun. Love wrapping it up here at Larz Anderson. If you see the museum behind me, this is again the oldest auto museum in the country. There is stuff from the 1890s in here. The family bought it and kept it. Please come check it out if you haven't. It's over in Brookline. It's like 10 or 15 minutes outside of the city in Boston. If you're in Boston visiting and you want to check out a cool car museum, come check these guys out. They do stuff on the lawn all the time. Next week is Porsche. I believe in 2 weeks is Italian car day. They have an 80s and 90s car day coming up here in a few weeks. I will be back for that one. We appreciate you checking out the channel. Please hit that subscribe button, guys. We're like 50 people from 1,000 subscribers. So, you know, if you're watching the video and you haven't subscribed, please do it. I appreciate all of you. We'll talk to you hopefully Thursday, weather permitting, at Bass Pro.